Since I ran out of time and did not finish my talk on self-deception a few weeks ago, Venerable Children suggested me to do part 2 of it. So today I will continue where I left off. I think after a few years of sincere purification, I have been able to accept myself and accept who I am, and that's why it's really helpful to make me feel the purification practice really helped me to feel more comfortable to dive deep in the self-deception. And unlike the first talk, I spent many sessions this time to prepare for this talk. Because I really want to understand why I engage in self-deception and where it's come from. And the most difficult part is to find the specific example of self-deception in all aspects of my monastic life, and it's very challenging. But it seems I found many of them. So I think before I go into the talk today, I would like to reread what Greg Vanerick, the author of the article that I've been following to guide me to reflect on the self-deception. He says, self-deception is often a defense mechanism used for self-protection, and it can be used for self-enhancement. But it often becomes a form of self-sabotage and betrayal because it denies reality. When we deceive ourselves, we become our own enemy, posing as a friend. Self-deception can involve denial of hard truths, minimization of painful matters, or projection of faults onto others. So in my first talk, I thought the reason I deceive myself is to protect my self-image. But after several sessions of reflection and investigation, I found out that there's another way of self-enhancement. Self-enhancement is when I try to exaggerate my qualities, praising myself or pretending I'm a good practitioner. Actually, self-enhancement is also a way to pump up my self-image. So actually, in both ways, the self-protection and self-enhancement it has something to do with self-image. So let's explore where my self-deception comes from. I think the author point out he gave he provides 7 points, but I want to add the last point, and I believe the last point is more important. But first, I want to go to from one point to one point after another. He said there has many potential origins. It can come from our upbringing or cultural and social conditioning. When we see instances of self-deception from our parents or others and from society. So I found out many interesting examples, especially from my upbringing. When I grew up, I noticed that my mom, when she was unhappy or disagree with what my father was doing, she didn't speak up. She tried to pretend that everything is okay, so I asked my mom, why is that? Why even she was unhappy? She said, because if I spoke up, then she and my father might had an argument, and the neighbor might thought the couple was quarreling. They're not harmonious. So she she tried to suppress her emotion, and she didn't speak up and pretend everything is fine. And From social conditioning, I think, first of all, from cultural conditioning, I think I'm not sure about, I don't want to be generalized, but in Vietnamese culture, I was taught when I was young that we need to be polite when we are at our relatives' place or our parents' friends' place. For example, if I came to visit their house close to their lunchtime and they invite me to lunch, I'm going to say, oh, thank you very much. I am not hungry, but actually I'm starving. So I think it seemed to me polite. Maybe they might be polite to invite me to lunch when they didn't prepare for that lunch for me, but they so polite to invite me, and I try to also polite to refuse their invitation. And I believe that living under communism is terrible, because we have to lie in order to survive, or because we are very fearful of punishment. So one of the scary example is when after my younger brother escaped Vietnam by boat, we always have to come up with an excuse. If the local government find out and ask us where he is, we have to say, oh, he's visiting my grandmother. So we have to constantly find an excuse to lie to authority because we are fearful of punishment or for our survival or safety. And the next point, he said, the reason we deceive ourselves comes from lacking of confidence. We try to lie to ourselves to compensate for insecurity. And I can find many reasons, but I want to share two. First of all, cooking. When I first came to the Abbey, I was asked to cook for maybe, at that time, maybe a group of 15 people. And because I was not confident to cook for a big group of people, I make an excuse saying, oh, the Abbey doesn't have any or a lot of vegetable or spices or ingredients to cook Vietnamese food. But actually, I was not confident to cook for a big group. And I remember maybe vividly that maybe in 2021, when the Abbey started offering the Shiksha Mana course, and Verbal Champa sent out an email saying each bhikshuni need to at least select one topic to give at the Shiksha Mana course. And I try to ignore as long as I can. And one day, Verbal children sent out an email saying, if I or any bhikshuni don't pick one topic, she will assign one. And I'm so afraid. I said, oh, I have to do one. Because I think in my mind, I thought, I made an excuse, say, oh, I think only the senior can do it. I don't know what to say for one and a half hour. I don't know what to share. So I tried to ignore it. But finally, I had to do it because I have no choice. The third point, he said, the reason we lie to ourselves is fear of judgment from others. I think I have many examples. So the first one is when I first joined the Abbey, I think all of us own monastic, and I'm not sure, have to attend an advanced philosophy class. And I think I was so lost and confused. Even I tried to study, but somehow none of them came in. But I was afraid to ask that, may I not to attend this? Because it seemed at this level, I didn't understand. I think it's a waste of time, and I feel discouraged also. So as you can see, the reason I tried to keep going because I didn't want people to feel judge me that I'm not intelligent and that is a big mistake. But after 1 year, I think if I continue pretending that I understand the material, then I didn't go anywhere. So I made the effort to ask the permission not to attend the class. And the second thing, I think this is the big things of fear of judgment from others. Even though I have a fast metabolism and I'm a vegan, and the nurse told me that I'm losing weight, I don't snack at all throughout the day, I'm afraid to ask that. I don't want to take precept because I'm afraid people will judge me that I'm attached to food. As a monastic, why don't you take precept, the 8 precepts? And finally, I have the courage to say, I don't want to take the precepts. And the third thing is fear from judgment from others is I think I have to participate in the swarm because otherwise people will think I am uncooperative, even though I'm behind in my task. The fourth one Greg pointed out is wanting to please others. I think there are 2 areas that I can see that pleasing others lead me to deceive myself, especially pleasing authority. When the lead comes to ask me to do something, I will putting my task aside and say, oh, I will do it right away, even though I'm behind in my task. Or I don't want to hurt people's feelings. So one time, a community member asked me to join a debate practice during study time. Even I joined the debate, even though I'm not interested in debate at all. So, and the fifth one is wanting to impress others. I found a few interesting examples. So a few years ago, variable children started announcing people who had perfect attendance. And I felt terrible because it seemed we practice in the chapel, we miss a lot of sessions. So I said, oh, maybe I should be the only one in the chapel to prove myself, to impress people that I'm the only one who can have a perfect attendance. But it turned out I missed many sessions. I guess because of that unwholesome motivation, I didn't make it for maybe at least few years. But right now, after I changed my attitude, I say, hey, I show up at my practice just to transform, to tame my mind. It's not about the intention to get perfect attendance. So it's very interesting. And I also try to impress people by saying that, oh, I'm a great meditator. I can sit still for 1.5 hours without stretching my leg. But now I won't try to impress people at all if I need to stretch my leg for a long teaching. And another point he says is we try to deceive ourselves when we want to avoid painful thoughts or experiences. So I remember when I first started the purification practice, in my mind I thought, oh, I'm a good person. It seemed I never engaged in any negative, unwholesome deed. It seemed in my mind I tried to compare to people who commit a crime. And then I made a lot of excuse and rationalization, like, oh, I just killed ants because they invade my territory. I squat the mosquito because they stuck my precious blood. And then when I say, oh, maybe the Varasava retreat got me going, I said, oh, let me do some live review. Then when I start, wow, a lot of guilt and shame came up from doing the live review. Then I went to another extreme of beating myself up because thinking, oh, I'm terrible. So now when I reflect on that, that one extreme is to deny that or my responsibility, deny of any wrong negative action I involved, or went to another extreme of beating myself up because I didn't believe that I did all of these negative action. It seemed like my self-image got threatened because it got exposed to all the negative aspect of it. That's why it tried to go to one extreme of being denied and say, I'm a good person. And another extreme is beating myself up because I cannot believe that, oh, I'm a good person now. Why did I engage in all the negative actions? And the next point Greg pointed out is we deceive ourselves because we prefer the convenience of an easy delusion over a hard truth. I think this is the big one. I used to think that enlightenment is too high, too hard. Only the master or sharp faculty people can do it. I am like, baby, beginner, none, no way I can do it. But it seems to me that I am lazy. I only practice for the practice sake. No wonder I have that kind of like a very prefer that delusion that enlightenment is possible. And the last point that I was thinking is where my self-deception comes from is ignorance, especially the delusion of seeing a self in the selfless. And since I've been spending a lot of time reflecting and investigating my self-deception, I found out that the less I am attached to my self-image, the more I am truthful to myself and to others. So I know that the work from moving from self-deception to accepting truth and reality might be not easy, but it's worth it. So me today, in the process of finding ourselves, maybe we can accept ourselves and be more truthful with ourselves, to ourselves and others.